Last year, the UK went through 3 different prime ministers, the first being Boris Johnson, who came in 2019 after the resignation of Theresa May. Johnson would lead his party to victory that year in a snap election and continue to serve as prime minister until September of 2022.
It is clearly now the will of the Parliamentary Conservative Party that there should be a new leader of that party and therefore a new Prime Minister. And I've agreed with Sir Graham Brady, the chairman of our backbench MPs, that the process of choosing that new leader should begin now.
Johnson would be replaced by Liz Truss, who took office on September 6th and would resign 45 days later.
I recognise, though, given the situation, I cannot deliver the mandate on which I was elected by the Conservative Party. I have therefore spoken to His Majesty the King to notify him that I am resigning as leader of the Conservative Party.
She herself would be replaced by Rishi Sunak. This constant change of prime ministers has led to calls in the UK for a snap election, and that leads me to the question of today. What is a snap election? Put simply, a snap election is one held before the next regularly scheduled election. In countries that use a parliamentary system, the Prime Minister is given the power to call these early snap elections, though they may need the approval of Parliament. These snap elections can be called for a number of reasons. An incumbent Prime Minister may want to gain more control over their party, or to simply enlarge their majority. If a Prime Minister is doing well in the polls, they may decide that is the best time to hold an election instead of waiting for the next election. In 2021, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau would call a snap election. His hope was that he would be able to rebuild the majority that his Liberal Party had lost in the 2019 general election. The next general election was scheduled for 2023. Trudeau would gain 5 seats in the election, but things stayed mostly the same, with Prime Minister Trudeau slightly increasing the number of seats held by his minority government. In 2017, UK Prime Minister Theresa May was trying to negotiate a deal for the UK to leave the EU. May would call a surprise snap election in 2017 in hopes of giving herself the upper hand in negotiations. This came as a surprise to most people, as the UK had just had a general election only 2 years before. The election backfired on May, as her Conservative Party would lose 13 seats, and its majority. Despite this, they remained the largest party in the House of Commons. 2 years later, Boris Johnson, who had since become Prime Minister, would also call a snap election for reasons also related to Brexit. Johnson would see a reversal for the Conservative Party, though, gaining 48 seats in the House of Commons. The last snap election that we will talk about takes us to New Zealand in 1984. Robert Muldoon had been serving as the Prime Minister since 1975 and would call the election after a member of his party stated that she would not side with him on an upcoming vote. Muldoon would then call for a snap election that would take place a month later.
On June 14, he drunkenly announced to a startled country there would be a snap election.
So we got a date, Prime Minister?
We got a date, the 14th of July, which we've worked out at Government House as being the appropriate date.
That doesn't give him much time to run up to an election, Prime Minister.
Doesn't give my opponents much time to run up to an election, does it?
Muldoon was drunk when he called the election, though this was not the only factor. Muldoon would end up losing the election, and it would be dubbed infamously the Snap election. Hey everyone, thanks for watching the video. Please don't forget to like and subscribe.